Okay, now we are live. So it is going right out to YouTube now. Okay. Um, so here we go. We will do the best we can because we're having technical difficulties. So it's Sue Greenwald here with Awakened Stories. I'm here today with John Kennedy Jr. Hey, John, how are you?
Good, thank you. And you?
I'm good. I wish we didn't have technical difficulties because we've got so many things to talk about. So the first thing I want to do is mention the book that you've got out called Stolen Identity. It's available on Amazon, and I'll put a link below in the description. If you haven't read this book, I'm just going to say it's an easy to read book, but it's hard to read because of what the content is. So John basically lived a life. He lived in witness protection program. He was bounced around. His life is filled with organized crime communities, drugs, torture, human trafficking, kidnapping, and murder. And within years of his father passing, his entire biological family was basically murdered and replaced with doubles, as was he. He's still alive, but he was replaced with a double, and they kept his identity secret. So John has been tortured, abused, and kept in poverty and almost murdered too many times to count, it seems. So welcome, John.
Thank you so much. Thanks
And
for sharing. I really, really appreciate it.
of course. So if I'm not mistaken, you have a DNA test in process right now. Is that correct?
Actually, I've taken three. Two of them I had that were totally different. And one, I just got the results back. I took it, oh my, 4 or 5, probably 5 months ago, but I just got, and we did it in secret.
Mm-hmm.
And I just got an email that I needed to check it out. And it was different than the other two by what the email I got. But I haven't looked at those results yet. I'm going to check out those results. I was busy trying to get internet and everything, but yeah,
Right.
the third test. But GoFundMe, we reached our goal of $6,000. We purchased DNA hair sample from my father and Jackie, but see, Jackie was replaced in 75, so I don't know if that hair sample was from her or the fake. But we actually have hair samples. We're going to hire a scientist privately, and I'm not going to disclose any of that because our government is the most powerful crime ring imaginable. I've seen how they work. It's so easy for them to walk into a lab and switch a vial for another vial, and I've seen it. I've seen how powerful they are. They can basically commit murder and get away with it because they have the badge and the authority to do it.
Right.
And I'm a personal witness to that. The crime ring is huge. Be careful all the time. And
I'm sorry, I just lost you.
I think we're having technical
Of
difficulties.
course we are. I lost the last sentence or so that you said.
Are you able to hear me, Sue?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, yeah, I just got a flash that said my internet is unstable. Your network bandwidth is low, but yeah, I'm working on this Wi-Fi and it's cutting in and out. So
Right. So
that's my issue.
all Jedis, please help clear the lines and light the guys up that are interfering and send them up in a triple orange beacon to Smarty's crew. Done. Okay.
Yeah, I was on TikTok and I did a live and I was talking about Bill and Hillary Clinton because I knew them both as a child. And growing up as a teenager, I knew Bill and Hillary. But on the TikTok live, every time I mentioned Bill and Hillary Clinton, it glitched. And then after about 5 glitches, they cut me off for good. And they said I was using sexual content that wasn't allowed. And I was
Yeah.
like, really? Bill Clinton's sexual content? But I did say pussy because Bill Clinton grabbed um, my mother Jackie's crotch,
Mm.
and that was it. That was it. I lost my life until the 24th or something. But
Yeah.
yeah, just for saying that, and they said misinformation, which is funny because I've had millions of views on my videos on the regular TikTok, and they stopped taking them off because I guess I got too popular on TikTok. But on the live, yeah, they cut me off right away. I had like 2,000 people listening, but yeah, don't say Bill and Hillary Clinton on TikTok because they must be accepting some of that foundation money.
Yeah, yeah. What I liked in your book is that you said right from the get-go that you have gaps in your memory. And that's not uncommon with people that have had extreme trauma, torture. And of course, you were drugged a lot and you were under MK Ultra influence. So that definitely affected your memory. But I do like the way the book was put together because it gave a flavor of what you experienced, which was all horrible, pretty much.
Yeah, see, I was tortured so much I can't write to this day. I could, Jackie, when I was a kid on the island, she was teaching me to speed read. She'd bring me a couple big books um, in the afternoon, and she'd say, I want you to read this book tonight. But I'm talking a book that was 2 inches thick. So she taught me to speed read. I can read some of the hardest words and tell you what they mean. But the torture that I went through trying to write a note when I was kidnapped for help, and the beatings that I would get were crazy. So when I try to write something, it looks like scribbles.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to even sign my name. But yeah, the torture, you think waterboarding is bad, but our CIA, they know how to torture. And that's one of the keys that they use because once you're tortured so much, you'll either black out, but it's also you forget, to put your memories deep inside your head, but they're still there, many of them. And the book was done over video chat from Jackie, but we worked hard on it. And so there's a lot that's not in it. There's a lot that is in it, but it's actually just done over video chat.
Okay.
But I'm happy with it. I proofread it once, and it was really hard for me reading it because it's the murder of my loved ones,
Right.
and I teared up a few times, and I don't want to read it again. I don't, I like to be happy,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of sad moments in there.
Yeah. The first time I read it, I lost my mind for the night. Like I was done. So rereading it, I was a little bit more careful and I had already read the stories, so I was prepared. But I have, like a chronological feel for some of your life. Obviously, you didn't tell every detail of every story. But I like the fact that you said there are gaps in your memory and you don't know everything. Like you don't know who everyone was or where they ended up.
Um, I didn't get hardly any of what you were saying. The computer was
Okay.
breaking in and out.
Okay. Well, let's just go right into the questions. We'll do the best we can. Through the book, you were almost murdered numerous times, yet no one succeeded. Do you have a reason why that could be? Like, do you have a feeling for why you are still here? Like, do you have a mission?
You froze up, but I got the question.
Mm.
Yeah, there was many attempts on my life. Um, but I mean, I had a bullet graze my cheek, and it was from a shooter trying to take my life from out in the woods. I was actually working in front of my home, and I had been poisoned many times. Many assassins came after me, but it's because I was smart. I knew that I could die at any minute, and I wouldn't I wouldn't play along with people's games that I thought was a setup to take my life. If I told the Quigley family I was going to the grocery store, in the town of Corscold, I would actually drive to the town of Fresno. I would try to make things tough for everybody that wanted to harm me. One time, I've slept under the underpass of a highway. I checked into a motel and paid for the room key, and then actually slept under underpass of a highway just so I could keep an eye on the motel room and seeing who was going to try to take my life. Me and Max Quigley got a motel room one time, and he left. I made sure. I said, he said he was leaving for the day. I said, make sure you lock the door behind you. Well, he left the door open, and I knew that they would be coming in to kill me, so I left. And I actually saw the guys that were going to take my life in the diner sitting there waiting for me. And I showed them that I had a weapon under my belt, and I said, it's not going to happen today, or maybe it will, but. And I made some comment like that, but I showed them that I knew who they were, and they were looking at me like, wow. But yeah, many attempts on my life, but I went and basically a lot of suffering and a pain and a lot of spending money to drive the wrong direction and to rent motel rooms, just not even to stay in the motel room and things like that. Um, you know, I, it was hard for me to hold on to a job, and then things like driving 300 miles to the. I get you back.
You're back now. Okay.
Oh,
Sorry about this, guys.
yeah,
Sorry.
it's funny when you start talking about the CIA, you get cut off, kind of like Bill Clinton.
Yeah. So, yeah. Okay. So basically,
I'm glad to be back, though.
when I talk about you, everyone I know rolls their eyes and like they're all acting like you've got some big gain for writing this book and coming out of coming out, if you will. And so for those naysayers, can you tell us basically what, we saw a plane go down in 1999 with a guy that he was handsome, fit, he was on the cover of every magazine, and everyone was at, great loss when he died. Can you tell us who he was and why it wasn't you? You know what I mean?
He was my
Oh,
he was my stepbrother.
right.
He was the son of Aristotle Onassis. See, when I was 10, 11 years old and we were on the island, the agents told me he was my brother. And I was like, but that's what they said. And I was like, my whole life, I was like, he's not my brother. But he was the bastard son of Aristotle Onassis. Aristotle Onassis, I believe, was the mafia don. The whole marriage was set up with the fake Jackie. Um, but they drove my mom absolutely crazy. They put a body double in her place. They gave the body double plastic surgery, cosmetic surgery. They gave her new teeth, dental work. They made her practice her to sound like Jackie. They gave her some big Ray-Bans to put on. But yeah, that's what I'm is people with that much power to totally control my life. And I did not know it would be this hard to come out. I figured the FBI would go along go along with the program, but what their program was to replace my mother, my sister, and myself. And they got the Onassis fortunes. They were hardcore cruel with my step family. My step brother, Alexander, was murdered right in front of me. He died in my arms. Well, he probably died the minute the bullet
Right.
his head and scrambled it. But yeah, even my stepsister, and they run the show in government. And yeah, but it was a takeover of the Kennedy family by the mafia, organized crime that runs the country. And the pretty boy, they put him all over. They put him on Oprah, all the interviews with Donald Trump and Bobby, and all that stuff. That's how powerful organized crime is. And they're not afraid to put it right out there for the world to see because they feel it gives them power for the crimes that they have committed.
So basically, the person that took your identity was his real name was George. Is that correct?
Yeah, I believe so. I mean,
Yeah.
that's why George Magazine.
Yeah.
Um, but he went by John. They told him to be called John John.
Yeah.
When we were in school and he sat next to me for a week or two, he went by John John, but I called him John John because he knew it meant to the mafia double. Means he wasn't the original John John. He was being put in place. He was the double to pretend to be me. But I
Yeah.
called him John John in school and he slugged me right in the nose, gave me a bloody nose. He was a prick. He actually was. And he was supposed to be my stepbrother, but he couldn't stand the name John John because he already knew it meant mafia double. He
Okay.
wanted to be him so bad, he came up with the name George for his magazine to help share, I guess, his pain. The name was George and not John Kennedy.
Okay. So he felt a George magazine, which we've all seen covers of. So basically, he got as time went on, you were a little boy, you were passed from the Quigley's house in California. So for those that haven't read the book, that had to be the most horrific experience, not really knowing who you could trust, being totally betrayed. Like they seemed like all the Quigleys knew how to do were basically kill and steal from people from reading the book. And they were untrustworthy, and everyone that you were surrounded with were
Yeah,
in.
they were being nice crime from government.
Yeah, yeah. So do you want to talk a little bit about that earlier life? And then it sounds like you bounced between their house and in California and then school in New York. Is that true?
Yeah, it's all run by organized crime.
Okay.
Um, I don't know how you want to call them handlers, but yeah, my Hollywood career, it was like 2 weeks, and there's I call them lions, but I have a lot of good lions pulling up research. But many shows I was on, but I was passed around, so I would be picked up from the Quigleys, and then I would be brought to John Wayne. I would stay with John Wayne for a week or two. I'd work on a movie set, and then someone else, um, Doris Day, or there was so many, but it was all for a week, maybe a couple of days, maybe 2 weeks. Then I would go like on the set with Charles Bronson for a couple of weeks. Then we would do a movie with Clint Eastwood, and that would be for a few weeks. But basically, these people, um, at first it was I thought it was so I got to know everybody and all the connections within the mafia. That was my side gut feeling that I was being taught around because I was going to be a mafia don someday, if you want to call it, or the boss. So I was meeting everybody in Hollywood. We did that. I would be taken on stage with the band Leonard Skinner, and I would be taken around and I would meet all these celebrities, and because they are all mafia connected, mafia run, all of them.
Okay.
It doesn't matter who they are connected. That's what I'm up against. That's how many enemies I have. I don't know if they're enemies, but they are all run by the mafia. So if the mafia is against me, then they're all against me. But they could be used as tools. But it is huge what I've learned and the people I've met. And when I first came out, I was thinking, well, I'll come out easy because all these people will help me now. The famous book writer, um, Jackie Collins, she did the book on Hollywood kids. Well, when I was young and I was doing a Hollywood thing, she said, I want to do a book on you. And I was like, well, when I'm ready to do a book, I'll let you know. So I think it was 7 years now. Time flies so fast. I looked up Jackie Collins, um, and she had already passed away. But yeah, that, you know, that kind of stuff, it happens all the time. My mom's sister Lee, she was still alive, and I got a hold of her on Twitter, just trying to get a hold of everybody that would help bring me out. And I found out that she was replaced as well. Son Adam was replaced. They murder, and they use the hermit crab technique. They replace you and they steal your fortunes.
Okay.
And I got a hold of my mother's sister Lee on Twitter. I said, "You got to remember me," because we were in some hairy shit on the island. There was people, Alexander, um, Aristotle's son was just murdered. There was mercenaries walking around the island with machine guns. But me, Jackie, and her sister were sitting hunkered down on some steps, and they were both talking about they were in fear for their life. They had to get off the island. They thought they were going to be killed. So on Twitter, I said, "Hey Lee, you remember our conversation on the steps? I'm the real John Kennedy." And she was like, "Get some mental help. You got to be on drugs." So right then, I knew she was a fake, because that's the way they work. That's organized crime. They're not going to give up their truth. That's how they made their living their whole life, stealing someone else's life.
Right.
And a week later, she was dead.
Oh, the woman you spoke with through Twitter?
Yeah, a week later, she passed away. And she was a fake. She was my mother's fake sister. So she had been murdered and replaced also. It's huge. I don't know if how the extent the Russians got into it. Aristotle's I was in contact with many people. He was, like I say, probably the Dawn. He was a Greek billionaire, and he was in contact with the Russians. There was many times we would eat caviar, and they would entertain. As a kid, I had to do the dishes. I had to set up the buffets, and place the settings on the tables for all these millionaire, billionaire, high society people. But the Russians had a big influence. Um, I know he was killed and replaced. He had a couple different body doubles. Did,
I'm
but
sorry, who are you talking
it's
about now?
huge.
Who was replaced?
Aristotle Onassis.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I lost the train of thought. Okay. He was replaced as well.
Yeah, but the Russian influence, it's spy versus spy. The big prize is the United States government. And everybody wants to infiltrate the United States government and take power. You have the power of the United States government and the control of all these people in organized crime. That's a big achievement for organized crime,
Okay.
and they have taken over. Everybody knows everything's all is in control.
So when you were a little boy, you were like air quote purchased by this guy, Wayne, according to your book. And
Well, that was after my father was assassinated. Um, my life went to instant hell. But the people in government, Eisenhower, and these people in power, they think they have the right to turn you into a slave, to own you. The child trafficking is huge because they're throwaway kids. Child trafficking up at the very top, Epstein and all this, the FBI, they use children as throwaway kids. They brainwash them. They have them commit their crimes for them, but they're not family. They're throwaway kids. And that's a big part of why we have such a huge child trafficking crime ring in government. And yes, I was sitting there. I believe it was Eisenhower. There was money switched, but yeah, they were like, "We're going to buy and sell you like a slave." And I'll never forget it. Um, but yeah, that right there stuck in my head for the rest of my life, that the people running our country have the power to enslave a human being.
so basically, Wayne is the one that took you to the Quigleys, and then he would come and get you here and there, take you here, take you to Hollywood, take you to do this odd, unusual thing, excursion. Um,
Kill people.
yeah. in your book, you act like Wayne is the good guy, though. You know what I mean? Which I don't
Yeah, well,
understand.
see, there's the crime ring is so huge. It is so many families. You got the 13 families that are the, you know, 13 of the most powerful families in the world, has hundreds of soldiers. Whether it is somebody, Bruce Springsteen, or I'm just throwing names out there, but famous people. Each family runs these people. And to me, Wayne was the good guy. He would take me around, but it seems like every other week I was with another family. You would go to one family and they would be kicking the shit out of you. And for instance, I was at one family, and then I was taken to another family, and I know the guy's name. He's a politician now. I'm not going to say his name, but he's a politician for the California, but it's a crime family. And he said to me, because every time I'd be bounced around, I would be beat and tortured if it was the wrong family, just to be used. And I went to this one, and he's like, "How come you're always cowering down and hiding in the corner?" And I was like, "Because I'm getting ready to get my ass beat." Um, but yeah, it's so huge what we've allowed organized crime to become in this country. All the politicians, and they're they're all they're all yes men for the mafia or
What's
women.
what's your goal right now for like coming out with your identity? Like, why did you write the book? What's your goal in doing the videos? Like, what do you want? Are you looking to get into politics? Are you looking for income? Are you looking for fame? Like, what is it that you're after?
When I first came out, I was talking with my friend Brenda, and I was living in poverty. I was having to go food stamps, food bank. I was ill, and it was like, I'm John fucking Kennedy Jr. I need to tell the world. And I told Brenda, she's passed away now. Seems like everybody in my life passes away. But I made up my mind. I didn't want to live in poverty anymore. I wanted to get some of it back, what had been stolen from me, because I was put in witness protection just so they could steal billions of dollars. And they did. Even my mother and father's possessions, Donald Trump was in charge of that. They're both fake, but they made 30. Somebody did a video or got some information on that. They made $38 million from Sotheby's selling possessions they had no right to sell because they were using identity theft. But
Right.
so much money had been stolen from me, and I was living in poverty, and the government's in trouble. So I just put it all together and decided to risk my life and come out. And I started on Facebook. They hacked me right away, gave me a bunch of fake friends. They started the Q movement and started stealing my stories of what I was saying on Facebook. I would do a live. I had 5,000 friends, and I would get one or two viewers the whole time if I sat there for 3 or 4 hours. So I played around with that, tried to catch some hackers and everything. Um, but it basically came down to this country is in trouble, and people don't realize it. It is in huge trouble, and people need to wake up because these people are cutthroat that are running the government. They are accessories to first degree pre planned murder, and they're running the country. They are covering my story up. I'm the real John Kennedy Jr. They should be trying to prove me wrong or prove me right, but they're not doing a thing because they know I am who I am. So, like I said earlier, you walk into the FBI office and they say, "Go away. You're too much trouble." They don't want me in a court of law because I'll set the courts back 50 years of all the murders and all the corrupt government officials. And I mean, it goes to the control over the Supreme Court and murders done. And extortion and blackmail and every other thing. Our Supreme Court isn't worth a shit. It's controlled. My sister, Caroline Kennedy, was murdered in 75 or before that. She had a few body doubles. She's been a politician. She's been the ambassador to Japan. She is fake. She is a lawyer. Anything that she has done in law needs to be thrown away because she has been using identity theft. She is a fake. She is now the ambassador, I believe, to I don't get into all of it because there's so much to get into. I believe she is the ambassador to Australia. We have fake people that have stepped in other people's shoes running this country, being ambassadors, being president of the United States of America, and they are not who they say they are. Donald Trump was my loved one. And I know there's a lot of hate when I talk about Donald Trump because they're so brainwashed into thinking he's a savior. But in 1989, he passed away and was replaced with identity theft. It's people stepping in someone else's shoes. The government has the power to do it, and they're instant billionaires, instantly. And all they had to do was say, "My name's Donald Trump." That's all they had to do. And
So
it's
tell us
it's not.
about the Donald Trump death. Tell us about that a little bit so we understand. Not everyone's read your book yet.
Well, I thought Wayne was trying to build me up in the mafia. He wanted me, by what I believed, to run Atlantic City, New Jersey. Straight up, I had been on the boardwalk with Wayne. He basically said he owns it all the shops. We walked in, the music came up, and somebody got a beating in one of the shops because he wasn't paying the rent. We went upstairs to one little place, and it was a house of prostitution. But he basically said he owned everything and he runs the show. And I assumed that he wanted me to take over for it someday. I had stayed in every hotel, casino there was in Atlantic City. If I was going to run Atlantic City, I wanted to know the ins and outs of every place there was there. So every weekend, I would go into a different hotel, check in. I would walk around the casinos and make sure I knew the ins and outs of everything. But like I said, I think I stayed in every hotel. It got to the point because I was gambling, but they were sending me free motel rooms every weekend. So I spent a lot of time in Atlantic City, a lot of time there.
Okay.
I don't know what happened with that. I really don't, but that's what I thought the plan was. And Donald Trump was part of that. But yeah. So anyway, I was at a hotel and Wayne came and got me, took me to the helicopter crash. Obviously, it was planned. And they were pulling dead bodies off of that helicopter. And one of the bodies they pulled off, I believe it was the pilot, was Donald Trump. Donald Trump was actually, prior to that, was said he wanted to fly his own helicopters. But anyway, they arranged it where that was covered up. But I was in tears. I wanted to get a closer look at his body. I got like 2 feet away, but I wanted to touch the man. He was my blood relative by what I was told. But I saw him close enough, 2 feet away, to know it was dead Donald Trump. And they grabbed me and pulled me away because he was on a gurney. And yeah, but it's all planned, and they have the power to do that. So the old Donald Trump was gone, and they had a new Donald Trump. They ended up stealing more of my money, and he became, the guy taking his identity. But yeah, instant billionaire. And I don't know why Wayne did that and showed me that. Just like he showed me the quarter that was lodged in the 1999 plane crash. Um, they're powerful, and they're the best in the world. Some I think probably like it. I've always called it feng shui, the art of placement, to place your enemy where you want them at the exact time, and they're good at it. They're actually really good at it,
So
and it's scary sometimes.
let's fast forward and go to the plane crash in 1999. You were basically in that plane when it did crash. kind of against your will. You didn't really want to go. You felt like something was up when before you got on the plane, but you were kind of coerced into going. So can you tell us about that experience?
Yeah. I didn't want to go. I've always I have always gone out of my way and risked my life and put my life in jeopardy. It says my internet's going again. But I've always done it my whole life. Wayne told me you go anywhere you want, and I always prayed that Wayne had my back when I would do something like that. Um, it was John, cousin Adam, and a government agent, and they met me at a truck stop, and I was like, "Fuck you guys, I ain't going with you." They're like, "We're going to a wedding. We want you to come." Um, but the red flags were all up, and I was like, "No, I'm not fucking going." You know, because yeah, he didn't want me alive. He didn't want me to this very day share my story that I'm him and he played me.
Right.
But there was a government agent there, and he was even reassuring me, "You'll be all right. You'll be all right." So I said, "Fuck it." Um, yeah, I thought I was going to die at any minute. Um, but I'm not the one that swam with the fishes that day. Um, you know, I can still visually, when I close my eyes, I can play shit back like a movie. And John and his wife and sister, and they were arguing like husband and wife at each other's throat. Um, you stupid son of a bitch, you blah blah blah, all the way till their death. So yeah, but the impact was horrific. I had already braced myself up against the back seat when we hit, but I told him, and he wouldn't listen to me. The plane would only steer left. It was turning like this. And I said, just reduce your speed if it's not, and we're five, just reduce your speed. Slow the frick down and we'll just do circles until we hit the ground. But he was too busy fighting to pay attention of flying the aircraft, and we hit the water really hard. It was really quick. I wasn't expecting it. It was just bam. But the nightmare was me trying to save her sister. I pulled her away from the plane, and she was fighting me. I thought maybe I should slug her because I had lifeguard training. My whole life I was in the water. Uh, I wanted to punch her, but she was fighting with me. She said she's got to go save her sister. And I was like, I either knock her out or she tries to go save her sister. So I let her go. She swam back, and I never saw her again. And then the plane went down as soon as she was on the plane trying to get the door open. But yeah, when the plane was going down, my whole life in lifeguard training and all the other stuff, you're told you can't be near anything. If you're in a boat and it's sinking, get the fuck away from it because the undercurrent will suck you in. And so even though she was, I saved her once, I wasn't about to save her again because I figured I would be dead also. I wasn't willing to die. I saved her once, and yeah. So that's kind of mind mental fucking me over. Maybe I could have done more. Maybe I whatever. But the plane went under, and when it was going under, I was swimming away from it. I had my life jacket on already. Um, it was cloudy. It was cold. I thought I was bleeding. I was waiting to get eaten by a shark. I couldn't see any lights at all. I didn't know where I was in the ocean. And the waves were really, really freaking big. So when a wave would come up, I would try to look around, and I thought I seen lights way off in the distance. So I started kicking and swimming towards it, and then ate by a shark. Um, I just kept paddling that way, and eventually I went into shock. I was there for so long trying to get towards those lights. I lost it in my mind. I think I went into shock. So yeah, I was actually there. They ain't coming back. They are not coming back. I saw them go down in the freaking ocean. So all this other shit is bullshit. I'm an eyewitness. Uh, uh, um, all this stuff from my videos that I've made, sharing all this, they have used all of it against me to discredit me, to do whatever. I don't know. Their lunatic ways are crazy, but I'm getting my story out, so they're gonna have to live with it.
Well, I think people are just curious. Like we want to form our own opinion. We want to ask the questions, and how can we not, you know? And it's hard when they're, controlling that. So basically, you were there when the plane went down. You had your life jacket on, you got out of the plane, you tried to save Lauren, she swam back and the plane sank. But you did see the body, at least of the one playing John. Um, Afterward, a few days later. And you said it was something like a quarter in the steering mechanism or something like that.
Yeah, this guy brought a quarter up to Wayne, and I was standing right next to Wayne, and he said this was wedged in, I believe it was the hydraulic line uh, of the plane steering mechanism.
Right.
So Wayne was looking at it and, got the news firsthand.
Yeah.
But yeah, the body I had seen was all sea bloated and every other thing. I couldn't tell if it was Mr. Magoo or John. Um, if it was John, he was so bloated, he was 3 times his size. But I've seen a lot of dead bodies, but how could you tell for sure? But the John that was on that plane, that impact that we hit, um, he had to bury his face in the dashboard and every other thing. He ain't coming back. But the body I saw, I couldn't give a positive ID on it. Um, I've seen many dead bodies in my time, but yeah, I just know he's dead and not coming back from the crash.
Okay. Okay. And so let's talk about your mother, Jackie. So your father, of course, is
And
assassinated.
you know,
You good?
and while we were talking about that, who's with the quarter being stuck in the steering mechanism?
I saw that was on your bed last week or
Good
whatever.
old George. Oh no, that was Smarty found a 50-cent piece of my daddy on his bed.
Oh, it was Smarty. I thought it was you. Yikes. Sorry, Smarty. So basically, let's talk about your mom. She had a double even when she was in the White House. Is that correct?
Yeah. And they were working on when I was alive. Well, when I was alive, when my mom was alive, they were actually working on a body double um right there in front of me. Like I said, plastic surgery, talking about it right in front of me,
Yeah.
giving her dental work, making her practice like she was Jackie. Um, but you don't know what's going on until you learn it. You don't know. I was sitting there, yeah, this gal's getting plastic surgery to look like my mom. She's getting dental work to look like my mom. I did have no idea, and still the Kennedy fortune. They do things right in front of you. You don't have the answers till it's too late. But they drove my mom, Jackie, absolutely fucking crazy.
Right.
Um, she told me she was crying in a motel room one time. She was like, I've been way too many funerals. And she was losing it because all her family and loved ones were being killed. And you imagine what she went through in 75 when or earlier when Caroline was killed. But they drove her absolutely crazy. I figured they would just get rid of her and replace her for one that had more faculties than she did. I don't know, but yeah. Um, I don't know if I can show this on the live, but this I call Jackie O, and I got the Kennedy half dollar on there. But I name them. This one's Jackie O, and my other one is Caroline. it's my right as an American for the Second Amendment, and it makes me feel better because justice is coming. I even got my daddy. I got my daddy all over. My daddy's all over my motorbike. I got a great big medallion of my daddy, so when I go for a motorbike ride, he rides with me.
Right.
I got the 50 cent pieces all over the, and I couldn't get my message out of me being the real John Kennedy Jr. on, I'd emailed hundreds of news media, so I fixed up my motorbike all in Kennedy memorabilia, Kennedy 50 cent pieces, medallions of my dad. So when I stop and there's a whole group, a bunch of bikers, they want to know what the fuck's going on. So I pull out my book of my mom and I say, I'm the real John Kennedy Jr. And I want to tell you a story. And it's not like the internet. When I'm sharing with a group of bikers, they're like, wow, our government is so screwed up. But when I'm on the internet, you get all the hate and all you're crazy. But when you're right hanging with them, they know it's real. And yeah, so I built my motorbike just to share my truthful stories with the world any way I can. Any way I can.
Right. So your mom had a double, or they were grooming a double when she was in the White House. Then she basically, the double is the one that married Aristotle. Is that the way the story goes?
I believe so because
Yeah.
I could tell the difference between it was hard. It was really hard. They're that good with the body doubles. But when I was at the wedding and actually the wedding pictures of her and Aristotle, that's the real me. That wasn't the fake John that stole my identity. That was me. I had my head down, of course, when the photograph, because the photographers for the White House are basically criminals. Are what do you call it? CIA, Secret Service. Anyway, they're the top of, and they're the ones taking the pictures, so they know what they're doing in advance. It's all pre-planned. Everything that we did, we were told to do, and that's the way our government is run. And that's the huge scary part because you can be elected into as a politician, but organized crime's telling you what to do right off the bat, and um, everything. Even when my father was in the White House, I got a few memories. My father was on a golf course, and agents took me to go greet him for a photo shoot. They wanted to see me running to my father on the golf course, but it's all controlled. All those media shots were controlled by their photographers. But yeah, I believe my mother was fake. I sat next to her, and she had one of these in her hand. This is a Russian wedding egg. Um, it's an egg, and this is what they used at their wedding. But you put wine in there, and then you do the wedding vows that way. But sitting next to my mom when she had that egg in her hand, I believe it wasn't my mom because she didn't have anything to talk about. She acted like she didn't even want to be there. She's like, "It's happening," but that was it. So it was all rigged. I don't know if it was all for publicity. I don't know if it was all to steal Aristotle's billions. Um, I have no idea, but I believe, yeah, Jackie Venn was a fake.
Well, you were just a little kid then, so you didn't have a bigger picture of what was going on. And then again, you're not actually given information. You're shuffled from place to place to do kind of crazy stuff, to be honest. And you're just,
Oh yeah, crazy stuff.
yeah.
And a lot of it, I believe Wayne was trying to get the crime ring that killed my father. Um, Many hits on people. Wayne was a really good shot. Um, but yeah, I believe it was to get justice. When I was doing boot camp in the military and I was laying in the mud, they were like, "You're doing it for your fucking family. You can't quit. You can't give up. Your family members are being murdered, and we're teaching you to survive, and we're teaching you to get justice someday." So all that, but it was some crazy stuff, and you're not told. When I was in the military, I believe it was when the Jim Jones massacre happened. I was sent to barracks in the military, and there was nobody there but me. They made me make all the beds. I don't know what there was, 30 beds in there. They had me put sheets on them. I did that job for them, but they had me jumping rope in there just so I wouldn't go crazy. But when you ask them, where am I? What am I doing? They're basically, we own you. Shut the fuck up. You're in the military. You don't need to know. You're on a special mission. So you're never given any answers, and you got to figure out the answers that you're not told by living the experiences. Because right after that, I was picking up dead bodies from the Reverend Jim Jones massacre, and putting them in, we called them metal tins because they're just cheap tin can coffins. They're not a real coffin. They're just something to put a dead body in and ship it on an airplane. Um, so yeah, it's so powerful. People don't understand how powerful our government is because they can do anything they want to, anything they want to. They can pre-plan crazy shit and get away with it. And people don't, I mean, the whole world didn't pay attention with all the pictures of me as a child. They didn't pay attention that I was switched out at 10 years old. I hope they're paying attention now. I hope they look at the ears and compare the ears because they're not even freaking close. Look at all the videos of me as a child. Look at all the videos and people of me on shows. Richard Steele, the Hollywood actor, that was me. They were all of me. One Adam 12, I'll never forget that. They put grease all over my, and Wayne had me put a special red and white t-shirt. And I believe he was doing, like I said, I thought Wayne was trying to help me when all this was going on. So he had me put a red and white t-shirt to send a message to the Hells Angels. The Hells Angels back then and now were extremely powerful, extremely powerful. So that's how they send messages, is through TV shows, and the news is controlled now. So they're sending messages out on the news all the time. Um, and I was told that, by a Secret Service agent in 1988. He said he watches a lot of TV because that's how he gets his message from organized crime.
Yeah, okay. They use codes and stuff. There's a way of coding news articles and that. So basically it sounds like sometimes Wayne was a good guy
Yeah,
to
I'm
you.
not, I can't spell it out.
Yeah.
Wayne was the type of guy, and I hope he's alive. I hope he's got my back. Very, very intelligent man, extremely intelligent. Um, yeah, like I said, Wayne was the type of guy I loved because deep in his heart, I know he had killed for me, and I knew he would die for me. But I'm scared to fuck with Wayne. Wayne had so much fucking power. If 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 Wayne waved his finger and wanted you dead, you would be fucking dead, straight up. And he would do it in public. He would have someone, you know, killed. He would tell somebody to get in your car and go drive into that brick wall, and they would do it. He had that much power. Whether it was MK Ultra to put them in while they were in sleep, and then do it that way, or basically just put a bullet in their head.
So
Um,
it sounds like he was not only your handler, but he was grooming you to take control of certain things. That's why he took you around and showed you, introduced you around and showed you the way it was done or whatever. But it seems really inconsistent to me. Like first he seems like a really good friend, and then other times he seems like a really horrible person to be around.
oh yeah, and a lot of that is to make me tough and for training, I believed. Wayne has so much power. Here's a little story. I don't think it's in my book. It might be new, but I had achieved some, gathered some weapons. Um, I think one was a shotgun and one was a 30-06, basically a sniper rifle. And Wayne, I got home from work one day and Wayne came over and he said, "By the way, Dave," he called me Dave. That time he did anyway.
He's
And he
totally
said, "While you were at work, I put a gun barrel in this motherfucker's mouth and I bit off." And I went, "What?" And he said, "Yep, I took the head right off that guy." And the cops are the cops are going to put you away for murder. And I just went, what the fuck? This is Wayne telling me I'm going to prison for murder? And he was like, and there's nothing you can do about it. There's nothing you can do about it. You just killed somebody with your own gun. What am I going to do? Went in the house. It was a little trailer house I lived in at the time. I cut the weapons in half. I cut the barrels right off the weapons. I put them in a little backpack. I got on my motorbike. I went up to Lake Tahoe and I threw them in the fucking lake. Everything. I didn't want no parts of no weapons, so I threw them all in the lake. I had been up for days. I was like, I'm going to jail for prison. So I'm up in Lake Tahoe, and I was like, okay, I got to face it. I have to face it. I didn't kill nobody, but so I went to the FBI office in Fresno, California. I walked in because the FBI killed my family. So you imagine how I felt walking into the FBI, thinking I'm going to prison for murder, somebody I didn't commit, talking to people that killed my family, my loved ones, shot down my mom. So I walked in there and I said, "Look, I got problems." And I explained my problems. And you know what they told me at the FBI office? Don't worry about it. Go home. Just go home.
Really?
That's what they told me.
Wow. Wow. Well, okay.
So
We're way out of we keep jumping around, and some people seem to be confused. So probably they haven't read the book or whatever. But so let's kind of like go a little bit more chronologically if we can. Your dad's assassinated. You're 3. Around 1968. So you're about 8. Your mom marries Aristotle Onassis. Is that around?
I think I was more 9, but
Yeah. Yeah.
somewhere in there.
Yeah. And I'm not really great with dates or anything. And I wasn't there, of course. So, and basically during that time, you're kind of shuffled back and forth around anyway, but you go to school in New York City, and then you're somehow Wayne takes control of you, Wayne, your handler, and he leaves you at this Quigley household in California. And like
Yeah,
I
they would
said, the
they
Quigleys
would come,
were not good people. You know,
but they were being told what to do.
yeah. So they were basically
Um,
paid to keep you alive, but they were psychological abusers, physical abusers, they were murderers, they were thieves. They did all sorts of
yeah,
horrible things, right? And
yeah, and they're loyal to the mafia. They're sworn to the devil. Um, Basically, in the shadows, um, the devil is God. But out of the shadows, they're going to church on Sunday. They're putting me in Sunday school. But behind the shadows, they're doing, and they're good. They're the best. Nobody in the world is going to think they're child trafficker handlers. Um, I was in Clovis, California. My next door neighbors, and this was a nice residential area, but I went to eat dinner at my friend's house that lived next door. His mother, and I should have never said anything, but his mother was right away, "You're not a Quigley. You don't look anything like the Quigleys." And after she said that, I believe that her daughter had gotten raped, and it got crazy. They started going into the hospital, and they didn't have anything to do with me or the Quigley family after that. They were being strong armed to shut the fuck up.
okay. So she
But
said that
yeah, people noticed.
you didn't look like a Quigley, and then all sorts of negative things happened to their family all of a sudden.
Yeah, I was getting blown away because I went over there and I'm eating supper, and she's going off about how I've been adopted and I'm not a Quigley and I'm not part of their family. And it was all hitting me like a brick. And I'm like, okay. Well, back over the Quigleys, I was young. And I
Yeah.
was like, yeah, the neighbor was all telling me I've been adopted. And
Yeah.
I wish my internet was more stable.
Sorry.
It keeps
It does,
going in and out.
it is, I mean, we're gonna keep going, but it does detract from the whole experience. Your buffer
Yeah,
can't clearly hear you, But, for the audience, I want
yeah.
to say
When
that, his name was David Keith Quigley. His identity was switched at, what would you say, age maybe 5 or 6? And they said was witnessed.
I believe it was because they gave me the name Richard Steele in Hollywood.
Right,
Um, but I had different names. So I think when I was 5, the Quigleys told me to call them Mom and Dad, not Max and Dorothy Quigley.
right.
But it was all so confusing. I had different mini names. I had to do different mini things. I had been brought around when I was young so many times. But back to the story, when I was in Clovis, California, and my neighbor said I'd been adopted, things got really weird because I was with one friend, and we had cattle and pigs and chickens and all that. But I was in the back pasture with a friend, and we were shooting BB guns. But the next door neighbor walked up to me, and he had a BB gun, and he shot me right in the freaking heart. It just pierced my skin, but I hadn't said anything to him. I just said, "Hey, how you doing?" But he walked up and then shot me right in the heart
He was
with
an
a
adult?
BB, and I was like, "Fuck, that hurts."
Was he an
Huh?
adult
No, no. My guess is he was 15 years old or so.
still?
But yeah, there was some crazy stuff when I was a kid in that area. I always did my own thing as a child. I would get on my bike and I'd just ride and ride. But I went across the street. There was a fig orchard right across the street from where we lived. And I'm with my bike. I'm walking down this fig orchard, and all of a sudden I look up and there's some kids, like 3 or 4 kids on the canal way up there, and they start shooting at me with live ammunition. And 22 bullets are hitting all around me. And I was like, frick this. But, things like that could be serious. But it's like, I look back and it's like, were they just freaking around as kids? Or were they really trying to shoot me just walking my bike down so who knows? But, I had some crazy incidents like that.
I don't think that's typical behavior. Like, I don't know, and we can ask for comments, but I don't think most people grow up with a lot of conversations about murder in their household, guns, people shooting. And for those that haven't read the book, you were basically given handfuls of pills every day. So you were drugged
Yeah.
and you were missing gaps of time. So Lord only knows what actually happened to you. So
Yeah. After my Hollywood career, they didn't want me to remember it. They gave Dorothy what they called a vitamin regimen every day. And what was in it, I don't know. They had connections with doctors and pharmacies. It's organized crime. In my book, I think I said where Dorothy Quigley opened her purse and there was syringes and everything else when they gave me
right.
that bisectomy so I couldn't have kids. My balls were swelled up like watermelon. I mean, they were huge, and I was like, "What is going on?" I had a scar on the side, and out comes Dorothy in her purse and gives me a handful of pills and said, "Take 2 of these every day." But yeah,
Oh. Yeah, you just cut out again. Um, so basically you go live at the Quigleys. It's like crazy town living there. And I think what really affected me the most about that experience you had, and it was a horrible way to grow up, but all the neighbors were like in a similar, like they were in this organized crime community, and you would have meetings, and like it seems like every
yeah, it was
conversation was about murder or robbing someone or crime. And it shocked me
well.
so much.
Well, see, what they do is they get a piece. These people are billionaires, so they'll acquire a piece of crop property, and then they'll subdivide that property into lots. Well, they sell those lots to the organized crime members, so they keep them all in the same spot.
Right.
So you can literally kill somebody in the middle of the street and get away with it because they're all put in place. And the property they acquire is probably through murder and transfer of a title deed. But Yosemite Lakes Park in Coarse Gold, California is huge. It is 52 miles of road. I worked on the road crew, so I know, but it's huge and it's all really expensive houses for the area. Um, but it was all subdivided. Wayne had me there when they were plowing, the roads and paving the roads to put in this subdivision.
Right.
Me and Wayne, I was standing there with Wayne. He had the transit, and the guys with the bulldozers were talking with Wayne. But yeah, they built that subdivision that's huge, and they put, Richard Keel, the guy on Jaws, people from Star Trek. They were basically filling it full of people from Hollywood that have done shows would buy a house there. So it was private, but it was all connected.
Right. Right. And in your book, you talk about some of the meetings and the conversations and the kind of midnight rituals and things. It's just very unsavory. And I wasn't sure how the Hollywood connection tied in with that. Like you've been in several shows and movies. Why do you think that like why did you need to be involved with Hollywood? What do you think the reason was there behind that?
Well, I know Jackie wanted me to be in pictures. She wanted Caroline to be in pictures also. They wanted me to be a star. They wanted me to be famous and have the money and everything. There was something to do with Caroline, my sister, on oh, John Travolta in the dance show.
Saturday
Anyway,
Night Fever, I think. Yeah.
yeah, actually, John Travolta and a couple other guys beat me up because I said that they had raped my sister. Um, it's I forgot what I was going to say about Hollywood before. Oh, Caroline and the Brady Bunch, the show Brady Bunch. I believe one of the sisters was murdered and replaced on that show. Something happened anyway. Me and Wayne were there. I don't know all the details, but yeah, Jackie wanted me to be a star. She wanted to build me up in Hollywood. She paid a lot of money. But what happened after what was it, 72? I really don't know. Just like I don't have the answers yet. Like Atlantic City. When I was taken around all around Atlantic, I thought I was going to be a Hollywood star, but it's like everything just ends. Um, so I really don't know. I don't.
Okay. It's just odd, because first they want to keep you away from the public eye and then you're back in the public eye, even though they don't really know who you are. It just seems odd. All right. So let's talk about your
Yeah.
sister. It sounds like you didn't have a lot of interaction with her, like once your dad, was assassinated. The family kind of fell apart, it sounds like, and you didn't really
With my real mom,
yeah.
you were breaking up, but you were asking about my real mom and my connection.
Your mom and your sister, like their stories.
Yeah. No connection. I mean, it was always so brief. We would hook up for a photo op. Um, there There was, I believe, three Caroline Kennedys on Aristotle's own island. So I'm a young kid and I'm getting told that this is your sister Caroline, this is your sister Caroline, and that's your sister Caroline. So it's a lot of mind games. I don't know
Mm.
why.
Yeah,
I don't have so many answers that I wish I really did, but the
yeah.
answers are coming out. Truth will come to light. But yeah, my mom was sending me everywhere except where she was.
Okay.
So yeah, not a lot of connection with my mom.
Okay.
That's probably why when they put a body double in, it was hard for me to tell the difference because um, everywhere I was sent, but I was sent some cool places that I was told that she was paying me to go. Pablo Picasso. Um, he had me, sitting there polishing his metal, things he cast, teaching me, this and that, and Mark Chagall going to Israel. My mom Jackie was putting out a lot of money to have me taught by the greatest. She was putting, Hollywood to be a star, so I could, she wanted me to draft, be a drafter, where you draw plans for buildings and houses. I don't know
Architect,
what you call that. She
architect.
wanted me to do that,
Yeah.
but I never got into that. It was like, yeah. Um, but
It sounds like you like working with your hands, or that's what you're good at now, from what from reading the book.
I am very mechanically inclined. I could rebuild a Ford, I could rebuild a Chevy, I could rebuild it in the front yard. I
Mhm.
can get anything running again. A motorbike, I can, if somebody gives me a dead motorbike, that thing would be the most badass motorbike going down the road in a year. But yeah, I'm very mechanically inclined um, with mechanical stuff like that. But um, I like tinkering with jewelry. I made this bracelet right there. It
Oh,
was a watch band and a bracelet,
very
but
cool.
I threw that together. The lady that I got the stuff from probably gave it to me dirt cheap. She's passed away too. I lost them a couple months ago. They were like my best friends here in Bullhead City. Um, and then somebody sent me that bracelet. That's a Smarty bracelet right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Somebody sent me that. It wasn't Smarty. It came from the Netherlands, I believe, but I absolutely love that. And with that said, I feel good. Um, Smarty gave me this medal. He said it was for post-traumatic stress disorder. Just having it on and holding it makes me feel better.
Yeah.
I feel healthier. I went to the cancer doctor yesterday. I was all stressing out, and the guy knows me. He wanted me to give him my book, but I was like, no. But he heard about me on the internet. He was like, "You're John Kennedy." When I went to see him the first time, and I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "You're all over the internet."
Yeah.
But I went in there yesterday, and he's like, gave me the thumbs up. He's
Awesome.
like, "You're all good."
Well,
So
let's talk about the kidnappings and abductions, because it seemed like those were probably done by, we'll call them federal agents of some sort. So several times you were kidnapped when they wanted somehow to get money from your family. And
yeah, from Jackie or Aristotle.
yeah.
Um, there was a few. Um, it was an article, and it wasn't the fake John they were trying to kidnap. It was me. But the article said they were trying to kidnap him. But it was three Greek criminals. They were trying to kidnap me. But the story got switched around, and yeah. But it's huge. I
Yeah.
have seen it my whole entire life. It's a crime ring, and they use kidnapping and extortion to do it. From Charles Manson. Charles Manson was part of the crime family too. Where he screwed up, I have no idea, but it's all the same crime ring. But from a young age, yes, if billionaires don't like to pay up, they do not like to pay up. So they get them to pay up any which way they can. They steal their children. It's the bloodline.
So
It's huge.
so there was one time they basically beat you up and then put you in a cage and took pictures of you. I know I saw the picture. I think it was on one of your TikTok videos, wasn't it? And
Probably. Yeah, I, Wayne showed up, and I don't know half the time what Wayne's doing and half of what he don't. But I was like, Wayne showed up. We were going to get this done. We were going to get it figured out. Good things were going to happen because Wayne showed up. So he picked me up at the Quigley's. We went a couple miles away. It was either, Fresno, California, and Clovis, California. They like border each other. So you can't tell if you're right in Clovis or right in Fresno unless you live there and know that, the street. But
yeah.
anyway, so we went to a house, and the gate, we walked through the gate and into the backyard. And as soon as we got into the backyard, this guy comes running up to me and starts punching me right in the face. It was like so unexpected. And he beat me up good. My face was all bloody. It bled all over. I believe I had a white shirt on, and my bloody nose and everything was all bleeding all over the shirt. So they had me take it off, but they had me put that green soccer shirt on. And I don't know what they were doing. I don't have all the answers, but they had me put a green soccer shirt on. Wayne told me to open the door. He handed me some newspaper. He saw, put this down in that cage and get the fuck in there. Um, I was in there and they left and I was waiting for them to kill me. I just sat there forever thinking they're going to kill me. Somebody came in and started taking pictures of me in that cage, but it's horrifying and it's real and it's freaking scary. But yeah, after I was in there thinking I'm going to die, they fed me a handful of pills and I basically went to sleep in that cage. So why they did that, why they took the pictures, it had to be over money. You know, I think of things why, and it all goes back to money.
Right.
If I ever have the answer why somebody did this or why somebody did that evil act or why somebody, well, it's money. That answers it. You know, no more searching. They did it for money.
Right. Right. So, you think that they switched your sister out as well at an early age, and that she's probably her real body has been, she was murdered and replaced as well. And then
Yeah.
the two stories that obviously, because they're famous people, but the way they met their demise was so shocking to me. The first story was about Aristotle. So basically, they're setting up a place in Arizona to live where they will be like under the radar, safe. Was that the real Aristotle there in Arizona with you then, or one of his doubles?
I really don't know
Yeah,
because they're so good at the doubles and getting them to look identical.
right,
And you have to get 2 feet away from somebody's face. So if you're standing outside and they're at the door, you gotta look
right,
close. Or but they're good at what they do. They can, you know, if you don't see somebody all the time, you just don't know that they're doing what they're doing.
right.
Um, but the way it went down, I believe it was the real Aristotle because they had a group of Hollywood kids, and I wasn't there while they were hacking up Aristotle's body with a little camping axe, but it was all videotaped, just like many other things are done, and that's to own the children for the rest of their life. So if some famous person as a child was sitting there hitting Aristotle in the head with an axe because they're being coached to do so and told to do so, and said, this guy is the devil, hit him with an axe. And they're videotaping it the whole time.
So basically, a bunch of kids
Excuse me.
walked by where you were with a video camera and an axe, and you were occupied. You weren't
They
thinking,
told me I couldn't come. Yeah.
yeah.
I
And
didn't know what was going on.
then when you went back to the house, he was dead. Of course, he'd been hacked up. But these kids who are now famous actors are the ones that killed him. Is that the way the
Right.
story goes?
Yeah.
Horrible. Like, and again, the average child knows wrong from right. I don't care who they are. And if you gave a little kid an axe and said, go hit that man, they'd be like, no, like they wouldn't do it. They wouldn't want to do it. But
Right. But what they are told is something else. They can be told anything, you know, they could be told that that person right there just killed your mother and father and you have no mother and father now.
and
And
also
they can get in your head.
they're also all these people are
They
controlled,
they
you know what I mean? And but that story was like when I read that I was
oh
like
yeah,
so
100.
horrified, like to have, the kids did that. And they seemed like, the way I took it when I read the book, they were actually excited about going to do this. And I was like, oh my God, it's horrible. And of course now they're in Hollywood, they're wealthy and they're famous and they're getting all the glory, and they don't deserve a speck of that, you know?
Right. And it's all covered up by government. I found a picture of Aristotle. He's sitting in his house in Bullhead City, and I was a kid, so the location might not be exact where the house was or anything, but he's sitting in a chair with his desk in front of him, and you can see the beams. Well, that house was in Bullhead City. That's where they took the picture of Aristotle at his desk. But in the writing underneath, it says that was on his yacht. It's like, no, that was his house in Bullhead City.
Okay.
And there's another picture of Aristotle and Jackie sitting next to the water. And it says that's in Ohio. No, in Bullhead City where they were sitting.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it says we're getting cut off again. But misinformation is, they can put anything they want.
Yeah.
They could have put that was Aristotle and Jackie sitting on the moon, and people are going to see that and believe it. But no, that was right here in Bullhead City, and that's all been covered up.
Right.
Bullhead City, before they even had power, they had a theater, and these people from Hollywood would come practice. I was on stage practicing. It had no power though. It had the old seashell brass lamps. You'd light a candle and put them on stage. But these people were being built up and taught their Hollywood skills right here in Bullhead City, and that place now is a food bank and a church. All covered up that it used to be a theater for all these Hollywood kids. It's they teach them young. They
Right.
teach them young. They get them young, and they control them. And it's all control. Hollywood is all controlled.
And I wanted to talk about two other, well, I mean, we've got so many things to talk about, but first of all, you had a chip put in your head at an early age, and and that's one way they can not only track you but control you, right? So you were
Yeah,
controlled.
I have no idea if it was a lever for MK Ultra or a tracking device. I believed I was tracked because they every time I was kidnapped, they would find me, or they could find me anywhere. But what that device was in my head, I still don't know.
Yeah.
Um, I know they did it. I know I had to wear a bandana over my shaved head on that corner where they did it. I remember it. I remember the doctor. I remember his nurse. The doctor was like 90 freaking years old, and his nurse was like 80, but they were all hush hush. Um, and it was a little office. It wasn't a doctor's office, but they
Yeah.
made it into a doctor's office. So how
Mm.
many other kids did they do that to? And like I said, we only use a fraction of our brain. So I don't have the answers, but to me, it could have been a lever or something from our government experiments to put me to sleep or wake me up or, come in the middle of the night while I'm under deep hypnosis and take me to all these places. God only knows. It God only knows.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe I'll find out for someday when I look into all the CIA files.
You were taken away a lot at night, like taken out of the household and taken to, again, unusual circumstances, unusual places to witness things. And I know somewhere in your book you said you counted that you had witnessed over 80 murders, and then you kind of lost track. And I was like, oh my God, not a typical life. That's not typical. Wow.
No, but that's how huge organized crime is.
Yeah.
And the organized crime families are, how powerful the mafia is in mafia wars. I don't know if it's in my book, but yeah, I was locked in a bathroom and told I had to chop somebody's body up and be able to put it in a bag and make it that small. And I couldn't come out of that bathroom until I had that body chopped up. Um, Lots of incident, scenarios like that. Um, Crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Um, One time there was a big trash can. Trash can didn't have a roof on it. It had a chute coming down right into the trash can, and it was full of dead bodies. And Wayne had a little red ring in his hand, and he showed me that ring, and he threw it in those dead bodies, and he said, "Now go find your mother's ring." And I did. I went in and crawled over all these dead bodies that were thrown in this big trash can. Um, Trying to find that ring. I never did find that ring. Maybe he just faked like he was throwing it in there just to get me to crawl through all these dead bodies and get used to death or something.
So, so it was like kind of like a dumpster.
But there's of killing and murders. It's
So you were made to crawl through a
yeah,
dumpster.
these big shipping containers.
Yeah, full of dead bodies.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, the power our government has. I was taken around, and I believe it's because I am who I am. I'm John Kennedy, and I have so much dirt on our government. So when they would take me around, it was covering their ass, and they couldn't get in trouble. So they could kill somebody. And if it ever got investigated, well, how did this person die? They would see John Kennedy was there. And they were like, well, it says in the computer, we can't do anything. Just like the FBI, when I walk into the FBI, they said, go away. We can't talk to you. So I believe a lot of it was so they could commit their crimes and get away with their crimes. So that's why I saw so many crimes. Um, with from Chicago to Illinois to Pennsylvania, the things I've seen, some of them are unspeakable, and the people involved. It's like going to the supermarket. They can kill somebody and take them to the morgue and evaporate their body because they own the funeral home. So yeah, I have seen a lot of deaths, but a lot of it was, and a lot of it I thought was trying to get justice for the crime ring that killed my entire family, and it is huge. Organized crime is huge. So yeah, I was sitting there one time, and this was when I was in my 20s. I believe it was my 20s, but I was counting on my fingers. I was counting on my toes. I was like, yeah, this guy came against me and he died. And I think his wife died too. This guy pulled a gun out on me and I haven't ever seen him again. So a lot of it I thought was getting justice for people that were coming after me, trying to kill me, for the justice for my loved ones. And some of it could have been the other way around to take money from individuals. But yeah, it's so powerful. They can do it right in broad daylight, right at night. They prefer night, of course, just so they don't have to kill anybody else or cover their ass. But yeah, I got to 80 something when I was young and I lost count. And it was actually screwing with my head because I was picturing the murders over and over again so I just gave up.
Yeah, yeah,
I said 80's enough.
yeah. Well, I gotta say that just seeing all of what you've seen is enough to cause PTSD. But then you add in the drugs, the beating, the kidnapping, everything else. It's like it's a mind-boggling story. And you're exposing through your book and these stories how many people have committed these crimes, and it's just actually a little shocking how many are out there. It's, um, one of the things
Yeah, I was going crazy.
yeah, one of the things you mentioned in your book was you talked about the Q movement a lot. Okay, so we're all familiar with Q on this channel, but you basically said the Illuminati started Q. Like that's who started the whole Q movement. Is that the way you said it? Okay.
Well, basically, the name the government gave me, Quigley. If you've ever seen Tom Selleck and the movie Quigley Down Under, I knew Tom Selleck. I knew them all. But yeah, it's all a plan, I believe, to discredit me. It's all bullshit. It's all made up.
Yeah.
Um, Donald Trump bullshit because they don't want my story out. They don't want people to think it's the truth because they're all criminals, each and every one of them. Sorry, you Trump supporters, but you better wake up because Trump was my loved one and he is replaced. And you had a few years of Donald Trump in office and he did absolutely freaking nothing. We lost parts of our Second Amendment. He associated with Russia and North Korea and every other buddy, probably switching Russian secrets with them. But yeah, he's not who he says he is. Um, my cousin, my cousin that was murdered in 1989 would never have run for president ever, ever.
Right. It really having the lines corrupted really is a hindrance. I'm just going to say that. I was asking about the Q movement. All right. So I wanted to know, you had said the Illuminati is what, these crime families basically are the ones that planned and implemented the Q movement. Is that correct? The way you said it?
Yeah, that's what I believe because I don't know much about it. All I know is a lot of them say John Kennedy's coming back from the. Well, I'm back. They believe John Kennedy Jr. is coming back from the dead. Well, I'm not dead, but I'm back. I'm trying to get my story out. He ain't coming back though. You Q movement people, he's dead as a doornail. keep believing year after year after year. They had me believing in witness protection program year after year. Someday. Well, I'm 63 fucking years old now. I was in witness protection for 50 of those years. Um, Nothing ever happened, people. It's a stall. The longer they can stall you and make you think something's going to happen in the future, the richer they get and the more they deceive you. And keep believing because he ain't coming back.
Okay.
And I don't even think Donald Trump will be president of the United States again. Um, yeah, we need a big change. But
Well,
yeah, all that was started. I believe it's just spin off my stories from when I started sharing on Facebook.
okay. Well, I just wanted to like clarify that because of course no one really knows who it is. And it does seem like it sounds so good what they say in the coding and all that. It's so clever. But the thing is there's been no action. We don't know if there's truly a plan and nothing's happened. So when I read it the second time in your book, it kind of popped out at me as something to ask about if you knew who had planned that. Um, Now, your mother, I'm sorry to ask this question, but you were outside when your mother is murdered, and that is your real mother. Is that correct?
I believe she was my real mother. I believe that they came and got me from the Quigleys and wanted to start a new life. We were in that gas station, and she was talking to me. She was telling me, "Yeah, you can work in this gas station here." I think she said she bought the gas station, and she wanted us to be able to start a new life. Like I said, my real mother had lost her faculties, so it probably was my real mother. She thought she was going to move to Arizona. We were going to start a new life. She was going to hide out, and they once again showed how powerful they were and took my mother's life right in front of me. Um, as soon as they shot her down, she was in a puddle of blood. I was running towards her. FBI agent grabbed my arm and stuck a gun to my head. And there was another little girl there. And the scenario still gets to me, but I keep thinking, I never saw that little freaking girl again. What did they do to that poor little girl? She was younger than me. I'm thinking she might have been 9, 10 years old, this little girl. But they actually fucking threw her in the station wagon. They had us both get on the floor. I had just seen my mother killed, so I was taking orders pretty well. Um, but yeah, that won't leave my mind, seeing my mother in a pile of blood, um, and what they did. But after the fact is they wanted me to confess to my own mother's murder. They had the confession all written out on the desk saying, sign this, that you confess to your mom's killing. They were sitting there laughing, having fun, joking, talking about how much fucking money they just made killing my mom. That's how evil these people are, and they get away with it because they're in power with government. It is huge. You can shoot somebody like that in broad daylight, the former first lady, and get the fuck away with it. And I want justice for all that. It gets to me. It gets me up. It gets me wound up. I deserve justice, and they need to prove me wrong. They need to actually prove me right. They need to come to me and say, hey, this is the files on your family that had been murdered, and this is what actions we took, or none or nothing. But I want justice for all that. I really, really do. That
I can't
it's
even
huge.
imagine how traumatic that would be. And I'm so sorry to ask that question actually, but I felt it was important because it seemed like that happened Aristotle and then your mom happened in a very condensed amount of time. And you were there, but not, you were there in the
Along with
scenario.
Caroline too.
Yeah.
And how
Horrible.
I survived, I don't know. Maybe it was a chip in my head. Um, Maybe it was how they could track me. Their intelligence skills, I don't know. But yeah, that time when they were telling me to sign a confession, I mean, there was a guy that busted in with a gun in his hand, pointing it at those two fuckers. Why didn't he kill them? I don't know. I wish he would have. I wish he would have killed them both.
Yeah.
When I went back to the Quigleys, I was telling that guy. I mean, we drove around for days. This guy was scared for his own
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
He had showed his face. He let him go. He let him live, but he was scared. And I was like, I want justice. I want to go back and kill him. I was 15 years old, but I was like, where can I get a weapon? Where can I get a gun? I want to go kill these motherfuckers. And he was like, they'll kill you. Straight up. He said, organized crime is so huge. you will be dead. And I was 15 years old then. And he was straight up. I was crying. I was in mourning, but he was like, "You'll be killed. You can't get justice. You're too young. You're just a kid." But I wanted to do some serious killing then. I really, really did.
If people knew that real story, they would go out of their minds, okay? Because your parents were both widely loved, okay? And of course, we were told stories that your mom went on to live a quiet life in New York City and blah blah blah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you believe
And
that? I
well,
mean, if you think about it, and it puts the puzzles together. They kept a fake in New York City so they could control her by the mafia.
yeah,
Um, all the Rose Kennedy and my grandma and her my mom said they were so wealthy. She could have lived anywhere. She could have had the most beautiful ranch with the white picket fences all around it and the horses running in the fields. Why the fuck New York City? Because she was controlled. She wasn't the real Jackie. The real Jackie would have had the horse ranch and the fireplace in the living room, not a fucking apartment. And that was all to scam money. I mean, people need to see reality for what it really is. She was a fake. She was controlled. She lived there because she was told she had to live there. I was brought one time to her apartment, and they had a photo op of me on the bicycle and her sitting on the hood of a car. She was so fucked up. I didn't know if it was the real Jackie or the fake Jackie, but I was told to go ride my bicycle around Central Park so they could take pictures. They stopped traffic at a corner for me to walk across. This was Secret Service agents did that just so they could take pictures. But I tried to talk to my mom that day. She wouldn't talk to me. She was sitting there reading her book, but would not speak a word to me. And I don't forget that crap. But yeah, it was either my real mother that was out of her mind or the fake one just not wanting to talk to me.
right.
But yeah, Central Park, New York City apartment for the rest of your fucking life, being the former first lady. No, she would have had a fucking nice horse ranch and beautiful, beautiful animals.
Yeah,
But yeah, so organized crime does things like that just to control people, control all the assets.
right.
Um, Crazy, but true. Crazy, but true.
I'm really, really sorry to hear that story, and of course that you had to go through any of this at all. And I think
Well,
your
I appreciate it, but it's been going on. It's been going on for so long, and the struggles I have each and every day. Um, it's crazy. I got team of lions working for me trying to get my disability because they killed me in the hospital in 2013. They they messed me up, and I believe it was a attempt on my life in 2013. Went in for a simple surgery and woke up with staples covering my holes in my lungs. I couldn't breathe. I believe they damaged my heart and every other thing.
right.
Crazy story, crazy story. But I tried to get disability after that. I was up at the Quigley's in a little travel trailer that I parked up there just because I was homeless, basically. And after that, I was literally crawling in the dirt. I couldn't fucking walk. I was messed up. I had staples on, and I was crawling in the dirt going, I'm John Kennedy, and I am having to endure this, and I ain't giving up. But yeah, I'm still not giving up. So
Yeah. Yeah. I think, your mission is really to expose all you've told all these stories. A lot of the people are probably no longer living, but you're exposing what's happened, and that's really important for us to hear. And I think it's only going to get probably worse once it comes out.
yeah,
Um, yeah, very, very upsetting.
I think of the good and the bad all the time. Do I want to expose and get it out there and have my life constantly in danger? But it's the truth. It's a reality. And American citizens need to know this truth because it's the biggest story this world, you know, could be out there, but it's not out there because the news media is all the same corrupt. They don't want it out there, but to me, it's worth my life. Um, Not the people around me's lives, but it's worth my life to get it out to the American people so we can make a better America.
Right.
There's a lot of people that have fought and died for this country, fighting for this country, and It's my country. I love it, but we need to fix it. I don't want organized crime running this country, and it is. And we seriously need to give it back to the people.
Yeah,
Organized crime members are cruel. They don't care about human life. They don't care about killing children, trafficking children, using children. And, and we need to wake up and get rid of all that. Seriously, we really need to get rid of all that and make it a better place.
agreed, agreed. Now, you have been harmed many times. Have you ever had a near-death experience?
Oh, wow. Yeah, I died.
Okay. Did you
Yeah.
go to a tunnel? Did you meet Jesus? Did you meet God? Any stories like that?
I I met the big bug zapper in the sky. This was in 1987, I believe. But the bug zappers were the big thing. It goes in and goes, "Beep," and then the fly's gone. So I
Right.
was kind of tripping on the bug zapper effect, but it was when they gave me a vasectomy. They actually drugged me. I think they gave me, and this was at a church meeting, no less. So I went to say a prayer. I put my head down, and this guy actually, I believe, chloroformed me. Once they chloroformed me, they put me on the kitchen table, and I could hear what was going on. I could hear them talking in the room. Um, but they waited for he was actually a CIA Secret Service agent. He actually swore me into the Secret Service. But he was a doctor also because he was the one that performed the vasectomy on me. But during the medication they gave me and the vasectomy, I died on the kitchen table. It was actually the big counter that surrounds it where they had me. And the kitchen had those big fluorescent lights that went across the whole kitchen, fluorescent lights. So I was laying on my back and all these fluorescent lights, but I left my body and I was floating towards this light and I could see my body. I looked down and I could see my body on the kitchen table. And um, I was floating. I had no control, but I was floating towards this bright light. And I call it a bug zapper because I didn't know what I was going to see when I found the light when I was floating towards it. And I looked down and I saw my body laying there. And I was like, why are these people doing what they are doing? And I was talking to God. And I said, why are these people doing what they've been doing to me my life? And the minute I asked God that, or the bright light I was floating to, I turned around and I went back in my body. And they did what they did. And I remember them taking me off the table and actually bouncing me up because it was two flights of stairs. But they were dragging me up the flights of stairs, and I was basically bouncing up and down the staircase while they were dragging me up the stairs. And I woke up 2 weeks later with an IV in me, and my balls had got infected and were swelling up. But the power they have to do that to children and me. But that was basically so I could not have children. So when I married, my wife would have a child, but it would be their blood because it's blood in and blood out. It's all about mafia blood, all about the mafia and their blood and the replacement of people to put in their blood so they could live a life of riches and power. And that's what was done to me. So I couldn't have any children. I never had a reversal. I don't even know if I want to have children just because it's so fucked up. And my life is going to be crazy. If I have children now, their life would be in danger. And I don't want any of that to happen. Um, Crazy. It's all crazy. But yeah,
It,
that was my near death experience. Um, I don't know what the big bright light was, but yeah, I could look down and see my body. It was peaceful. Um, for me wondering why all these evil people are killing me and doing all this fucked up shit to me, but to God, I guess. Yeah, it was not scary.
yeah. I mean, that's such a bizarre story because it came kind of the attack came out of the blue. And then like they really drugged you. They did a horrible job.
Yeah,
And
that's
how offensive.
the um the crazier it gets, the more true it is. But yeah, it's all pre-planned. They write out the events of how it's they call it organized crime, and it's very well organized. But the tactics, they don't care. They didn't care about me. They didn't care about my life. All they were caring about was money I was supposed to be getting in the future as young John Kennedy.
Right, right. Well, and then basically they forced you to get married. Like they kind of tricked you into it, kind of forced you to get
Exactly.
married. The woman you marry has a son that's
And
obviously not yours.
but they did a switcheroo also.
Yeah.
Um, my wife that had my child, or I was going to raise it like my own child, went to the East Coast and came back with a totally different baby. Um, child trafficker. Why did they bring one child to the East Coast and bring another child? See, I always thought it was to keep power within the crime families. Children like that would be switched out at birth, after birth, to other crime families. So if one crime family had a child, they would be switched. But I was told by Wayne that that was to keep peace within the crime families. So one, because they're all fucking greedy, they all try to take over one's assets from the other one's assets. But if you kill somebody in a crime family, you don't know who you're killing. It could be your own cousin or your own brother for that matter. You don't know. So that's what I was told. I don't know if I buy it. I was told so many things and so many lies, but I'm just telling what happened and what I was told. But do I have the real answer? No, I
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah. Well, so you tried to do the right thing by this boy, and eventually the Quigley.
I went to the FBI. I had pictures of this one guy with my kid sitting on his lap, dressed in my clothes with a buck knife up to his, and I still have that picture. I carried as a truck driver. I carried that picture around for 25 years in my wallet. I finally put it in a Jackie book, but it was all for extortion. They had my child on somebody's lap, and I know who that was. And he had a buck knife to my son's, and they took a picture of that for extortion from the families. And the funny thing is, I ran across this guy 5 or 6 years later, and he comes up to me, and I mentioned my son because I didn't know if I wanted to take the man's life or not for what he did. But he said, and I went by Dave back then, but he was like, Dave, I didn't even know you had a son. And I was like, is this guy a body double or what? You can't remember, he was coming over to my freaking house. He was fucking my wife and every other thing. How could he not know I didn't have a son? It's some mind blowing things where you have to think, well, maybe this guy ain't even real. Maybe he was already killed and replaced. I don't know. All I know is he was the man that was dressed up with a clown nose on, wearing my hat over his head with a buck knife to my son. And I got the freaking picture, but it's all worn out. But yeah, I carried that around in my wallet just to get justice for that, for all they do. Just to when I open my wallet up, just to remind me I got a mission. It might be today, it might be 10 years from now, but it's my mission.
Right, right. Wow. Well, I have lots and lots and lots and lots of questions. I don't know if we should if now is a good breaking point. If you want to keep talking, it's really up to you.
Well, why don't we give it a few more minutes and then do
Yeah.
it another day?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that way we'll come back and because there's so many there's gaps because we've been jumping around chronologically. And if people haven't read the book, they're probably a little confused because they're not getting the story in the way you told it before. But
Yeah.
I just wanted to again show how many unusual and bizarre experiences you had causing you like mental distress, disconnect, a loss of memory, stress, like yeah, it had to be horrible. Wayne had you join the Hells Angels. Is that correct? Okay, here we go.
Yeah, actually, I believe Jackie was paying them to teach me and protect me. Back in the 70s, they're extremely powerful, extremely, and very good at protecting someone and keeping someone safe. Um, I respected them. they were willing to die for me. And I don't want to tell too many stories because we don't tell too many stories. But yeah, that was one of the happiest days.
Right. Oh, you just locked up on me. Okay. I don't know if you can hear me, but it sounds like you were asked to join the Hells Angels so that they could protect you, but you could also learn to protect yourself more. Is that correct? Okay.
Life, I had a new family. Were the Hells Angels.
We just lost like, I don't know, 30 seconds or more. So could you repeat that? Okay. I think we're going to probably stop right here now, guys. Thank you for your attention. If you haven't read the book, Stolen Identity, that's a really good place to hear more about this story. $20 on Amazon. And again, I have gone through the book a couple times to get the story chronologically. And you can understand after reading it why John's memory is not maybe crystal clear. We've jumped around a lot, so bear with us. Hopefully we'll do more. We'll be doing more talks in the future. So please, if you can read this book, that hopefully will support John. I'll also put his Cash App ID in the description of this video. If you would like to donate to John to support him in any way, I'm sure it would be greatly appreciated.